Hey everybody, what's going on? This is your host Al Qualls, host of Guys Talking Sports. This is episode number 5. Again, thanks for having me in their podcast. We're gonna get started. I don't have any guests today, so we're gonna keep this probably short and sweet. But we are gonna talk about what's going on in the world of sports today. So let's get started. So let's talk about what's going on in the NBA. Still, it's just a waiting game approach right now, as we're waiting for basically LeBron and Melo to make their decisions. In regards to LeBron, for whatever reason now, it appears as though that the Heat are not the front runners, and it looks like LeBron may be taking his talents back to Cleveland, in his hometown. Reports are coming about that Cleveland has now emerged as the front runner to get LeBron James, which I have to admit, I didn't expect that maybe a couple of days ago. I really thought that he was going to sign back with the Miami Heat, but now it appears as though that Cleveland is now the front runner. Again, LeBron hasn't made no indications that Cleveland is the front runner, or anybody is the front runner for that matter. But it's good to say that from the media outlets that are speaking, they're saying that Cleveland is the front runner to get LeBron. So what does that do for Miami? Well, from what I'm hearing, as far as rumors is concerned, is about Chris Bosh is planning on, if LeBron leaves, then Chris Bosh is also going to leave, and it appears that he'll be looking to head to Houston. But also with the Carmelo situation, there was talks before when we last held that conversation. It looked like it seems as though everything was pointing to Chicago, for him to go to Chicago. Is it the best place for him to be to win a title? But now all indications look like he is coming back to New York to sign the max deal. Right now, like I said, nothing has been etched in stone on what they're going to do, but it just goes to show you about how media works sometimes, with all these rumors going on about where these people are going. And it's one of the things that I kind of love about the summer, about free agency, is because you never know what happens. You never know what would turn, what changes is going to happen to the teams, especially to your team. A lot of people that are Miami Heat fans are saying to themselves, "Wow, what just happened?" Right now, what it boils down to with LeBron is that as much as everybody want the money, as far as to stay where they are, they also want the help that's needed to get them to that next level. Right now, it feels as though Miami is taking sort of they took a sort of a hit without upgrading their talents, upgrading their roster, which could be the reason why LeBron may be leaving. Again, nothing is etched in stone, but when you look and see what Cleveland is doing, they shed a ton of cap space today with the trades that they made, trading away Jared Jack, and I forgot the other player to Brooklyn. Tyler Zeller going to Boston, and a first-round pick, all to bring back nothing but cap space. So it's very interesting to see how Cleveland is basically shedding their salary down. Be interesting to see if LeBron will actually go, whether it's all said and done. So again, with this whole NBA free agency being the way that it is, it seems like every free agent is waiting to see what LeBron and Carmelo does, especially the people that plays their positions. When you think about it, like Luol Deng, Chandler Parsons, who may be going to Dallas, but we'll talk about that in a minute. But those type of players, they're all has that wait and see approach. Lance Stevenson as well. It seems as though that once the dominoes start to fall with LeBron and Melo, everybody else you'll start seeing more signings taking place. So as of right now, it's a waiting game. We don't know when they're going to make the decisions, both Melo and LeBron. We don't know when they're going to make their decisions, but once they make their decisions, you'll start to see other free agencies doing the same thing. Now, what I like about this is the fact that teams are really literally holding out to see what happens before they make their move. Some teams are doing it, some teams are not. But it'd be very interesting to see how this ends up when the summer is over. Still a couple of trades, assuming it's going to be made down the road. I see a couple of teams is going to make some trades down the road during the summer, but as of right now, it looks as though that everybody is staying pat until until LeBron and Carmelo figure out what they're going to do. And with the New York Knicks, they'll wait to see what Carmelo is going to do. They pretty much put the ball in his court. Same thing with LeBron. LeBron pretty much has the ball in his court. Hopefully he won't make a decision announcement like he did before, but it would be interesting to see what type of announcement he's going to make. Also, in other reports, just to let you know, the World Cup Finals has been set. It's going to be Argentina against Germany for the final. Argentina beat the Netherlands 0-, off of penalty kicks 4-2. And with the beating that, I'm not going to say beating, but with the performance that Germany gave on Brazil yesterday, this is going to be an interesting matchup to say the least. In regards to the World Cup, in the U.S., a lot of people may not find it to be fascinating or exciting as the people outside of the U.S. For the people outside of the U.S., this is a serious event. And as some of you seen yesterday from what happened with the Brazil and Germany game, you saw the effect that it had on their fans. You saw fans crying when Germany was up by at least by 4-0. You saw people actually literally crying in the stands. And that shows the amount of passion that these fans have for their teams. And a lot of people don't realize that, especially in the U.S., they really don't realize the fact that, soccer is basically the top sport outside of the U.S. Let's just call it how we see it. You see fans all the time when you watch a soccer match, whether it's in the European leagues or wherever. You see fans literally be fans. They come in face painted, flags thrown up in the air, people jumping up and down, screaming. Like, that's the type of passion that the U.S. needs at this particular point. Sure, the U.S. is no longer in the World Cup, but it's amazing how some people, it's passion all around. Some of the average fans that maybe go to a game, you'll see a few select that as being as passionate as a fan as they can be. But from watching it from outside looking in, it makes you I have to admit, watching some of the soccer matches, it makes me want to root for that team just to see the passion of fans that was doing the same thing. You seen fans jumping up and down, screaming out the top of their lungs, and you see how it affects them when they lose. When you see people literally crying, or it's that emotion that certain athletes look for fans to look for that in fans. I remember when the Brooklyn Nets was in a playoff game with Toronto, and KG and Pierce was talking about, where's that emotion? People come to games nowadays as a recreation, as a place to just, to enjoy the game. Sure, there are fans that are there at the game, but the true passionate fans, you get them in majority of the arenas. I can name a few, like OKC, for example, Miami. Those arenas stay packed, filled, and they are as loud as they can be. And then you see some of the arenas where it's just scarce, or when they come, or when something exciting happens, you see little participation, but not the whole true fan perspective. And that's what I like about the World Cup, because with the World Cup, it's nonstop from the start of the game to the finish of the game. You'll see fans still jumping up and down. They're screaming off the top of their lungs, rooting for their favorite teams. And that's one of the things that is so important to the fans, because, truth be told, you're representing your country. You're representing where you're born or where you're affiliated with. And I think that's something that's missing definitely in the U.S. Not just so much as from the World Cup perspective, but fans in general. Like back in the days where fans were, you would scream off the top of your lungs, like with the Boston and LA playoffs, with the NBA, you would hear, Boston had that chant, BLA, BLA, and now you don't have it as much. A lot of people, I don't know whether it's just, it's not as, their fans is not as passionate, or I don't know, but what it boils down to is basically the fans need to, I would like to see more enthusiasm, more passion from the fans here in the U.S. I'm not to say that it doesn't show, but I would love to see more of it. And that's one of the things I like about the World Cup, because what I've learned about it is that it continues for me to want to watch it. It makes me want to watch it even more, because of the simple fact is that there's passion there. And, it's not just rooting for your athletes, but for your teams, but rooting for your country, just rooting as an overall fan in general. So that's one of the things that I like about the World Cup. But getting back to what sports is going on, what's going on in the world of sports today, going back to the NBA, it seems as though there's going to be a shift. Basically, the West is still dominated with a lot of teams, a lot of good teams. Even though the Spurs won, you have a lot of teams right now vying for a position to be better than where they were. The whole thing, you still have, you have OKC, you have San Antonio, you have the Clippers, you have those three teams. If anything is done with Houston, you can throw Houston and Portland in the mix as well. But what I'm trying to say is that those teams right now, they're not looking to settle where they are right now. They're looking to get stronger. And truth is that at the end of the day, that's something that they need to do, because they're willing to get stronger because their conference is strong. And in order for them to get stronger, they know that at the end of the day, they have to beat these same teams in the Western Conference just to even make it to the finals. Now, with the East, it may be a little bit more easier of a route. That may change with the addition of new people, new players, with trades. So it'll be very interesting to see how this all unfolds. Right now, I still see any team out there in the West would easily, I'm not saying easily, but they would have a good chance of winning the NBA Finals in 2015, basically out of what I see right now. And the East is going to get stronger. They're not as strong as the West right now, but they will get stronger. And once that happens, then you'll see the shift balance out. But right now, there's so many teams that are heavily favored in the West. To be honest, the West, the top three teams, maybe the top two, about the top 4 or 5 teams could easily be a 1 seed in the East. That's how tough the West is right now. So basically, we're just waiting to see what type of shift is gonna, if it's gonna heavily tip the scales to balance out for the East, between the East and West, or is it still gonna heavily favor the West? So that's my take on what's going on with NBA stuff. But we'll get back to that in a minute. Quick note, I do want to talk about the Sherman Crabtree situation. This whole thing started basically last year. I don't know how the beef, I can't remember how the beef started between Sherman and Crabtree, but it looks like that's not going to die down. If I don't know if they're still talking, beefing against each other, I do not know. But I do know one thing about this. For Michael Crabtree's sake, Richard Sherman already proved that he has a ring at this particular point. Richard Sherman already proves that, he's already proved in the biggest stage in the Super Bowl, in last year's Super Bowl, that he was look, you can't talk trash at him. So I don't know if Crabtree is continuing that, or it's just Sherman just, kicking dirt on a person while he's down. But at the end of the day, I hope for Crabtree's sake, try saying that 3 times fast, but I hope for his sake that he's able to come out of this and really work, not really work, but come out of it a lot stronger, and basically just I hope it motivates him to be a better player, a football player. We're not going to get into that he said, she said, all that talk back and forth. All that really does is motivates a person to come out and to be the best that he can be. And hopefully Crabtree can prove that. Not saying that I'm for Sherman, but because, I mean, my opinion, all this talk, back and forth talk, it's too much. But at the end of the day, I hope it comes better football out of it for the fans, not just my sake, but for the fans' sake. That's something that we want. We want that little rivalry to going because it keeps us talking about that. Let's see, what else can we talk about? Quick note, Popovich, while all the agent, free agent stuff is going on, Popovich reached a multi-year extension with the Spurs. It's nothing new. You expected Pop to be back. Pop is a great coach, probably one of the all-time best coaches in the NBA, period. To be honest, I would put him up there as one of the top coaches. In the top three, in my opinion. I'm not. I'll put it like this: he still got more to prove. I'll wait before I make judgment in regards to where he is in comparison to Phil. But as of right now, I would have to say that he is really one of the best coaches, which makes it kind of interesting the fact that nobody, all these superstars are not really thinking about, or not superstars, but good stars, good players would want to come to San Antonio. It's kind of ironic because here you have a proven coach, a proven system that works, a proven system that gets you to the playoffs majority of the time, and yet a lot of stars is not looking in San Antonio as a viable place to be. It's kind of weird that because out of all the places you would think that a lot of players, even at their prime or winding or starting to wind down, would consider the San Antonio Spurs as a choice to go because what you're getting with this group, with this team. It makes it interesting. I really don't. I mean, in my opinion, I don't see why you shouldn't consider San Antonio as your preferred destination spot. But some of these players have already done that. I would have thought that, for example, a guy like Danny Granger would go to San Antonio. I would think a guy like Pau Gasol would go to San Antonio. Would definitely help them out. Even though I have to admit, Pau Gasol going to OKC would be the ideal place for them to put them over the top against San Antonio. That's just my opinion, but Pau Gasol is the missing piece for OKC. Regardless, he's a smart player. He's a better fit for OKC than he would be for San Antonio. But regardless of the fact, I would love to see them upgrade a little bit more. I do not see any. It's interesting how people are waiting so much for certain players to go to certain teams before they make the decision. Right now, it's all about recruiting, which is I can understand if you want to win, you would recruit some of the good players that will help you, that you think will help them. Help you to win. But when it comes down to it, it's not just about having a good player. It's also having a system in place. And truth be told, no one has a better system in place than the San Antonio Spurs. Think about it. You have Duncan, Parker, Ginobili, who wasn't all playing over 30 minutes. They were under 30 minutes. As a team was under 30 minutes. Yet they still was able to win the NBA title. As much as Duncan, Ginobili, Parker, all on this downward of their career, but still did enough to help to win a title. Imagine that. You have superstars that are playing 35 minutes, 30 to 35 minutes on average, at least over 30 minutes, and yet you have these people here that really don't understand the fact that the people here The guys like Carmelo, LeBron, they all want to win a championship, but the system that's in place for them is the wrong system to get to that point. Yeah, sure, you'll get them maybe 25, 30 touches a game, but you can't always rely on that one person or two people to win the game, but let alone win a season, let alone win the playoffs. You need some type of balance. You need someone that could be that extra fill-in person. I mean, truth be told, Miami done it because of the fact that they had the big three, where even though LeBron was the superstar, you had Wade and Bosh. Mainly, I would say Bosh more to hit the big shots. Or if it wasn't Bosh, it was Ray Allen hitting the big shot. You had LeBron and Wade doing what they do best, but you needed that third option. Basically, when you have a system in place, you put that system around those three or whoever is the third person that's hot, that has that open jumper or open layup or whatever that has the ability to score points. The point I'm making is that you have a system that is catered to three people against a system that's catered to five people. Sometimes you have to understand that if this system is not working to get you over that hump, maybe you need to tweak the system a little bit instead of changing the players. And that's one of the things that I have to give kudos to San Antonio, because they don't change the players really. I mean, they really don't change the players at all. They change the system. They adapt to the system that's around them. They made a golden rule to adapt to that system. And you would think that a lot of teams would follow that same format, and they don't do that. And then they wonder why they don't make it to that next hump, because coaches sometimes don't adapt to the system. If I'm a coach and I say to myself, hey, look, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to say I'm not going to give all these people the maximum amount of minutes. I'm not going to push them to go over 35 or 30 minutes a game. I'm going to make it so that it's equally balanced. Everybody gets a fair shake. We learn from their mistakes. We help the bench grow when they play more minutes, because in return, that bench is going to become stronger and stronger to the point where they build up their confidence. As a coach, that's one of the things that you would look at. Instead of saying, you know what, I'm going to try to put the best team out there with my best three and see what they could do for me. It may work offensively, but you may, lose defense, or you may lose rebounding. And I don't know if I don't know what type of system that coaches are adapting to, or what they're trying to do with some of the teams that they have. Because truth be told, let's call it like it is. The New York Knicks should not have that record that they had, but because of Carmelo Anthony. And not to say that I'm blaming Coach Woodson for it, but I just felt as though the system that was in place for the Knicks at that time last year wasn't effective enough for the Knicks as a whole, not for their roster. I mean, that's why Phil Jackson came in and made the tweaks that he made. There's some teams that can definitely change. If they were able to change their system, they still have the pieces in play to make them a better team. Look at Washington, for example. The year before last, they weren't even in the playoffs. But instead of change, the only upgrade that they did was add Gortat, but majority of the players were still the same, and yet I'm pretty sure that what they did was they changed their system around, their offense and defense. They changed it around. Their plays, they changed it around. And then now you look at them being where they are right now, where they were in the second round of the playoffs. And you have to give them kudos for that, because, there's a system in place that sometimes the people may not need to change, but the system may need to change. You can't bring players in who don't adapt to the system well, to your system. It doesn't work that way. And you see players that, who were good one year, but then brought on to a different system and completely spiraled downward. Hopefully down the road for NBA players, people will start to see that more, and people will start to get that, coaches will see that more, and they will change that system around to make it better for the team. Now, basically, sorry about the phone ringing, but what we're going to do now is we're going to talk a little bit more about certain situations that's going on. Still, there's no decision. I'm not going to stay here with LeBron and Carmelo. There's still no decision. Chandler Parsons, though, however, did agree to the Dallas Mavericks offer. So I'm interested to see if Houston will, in return, match that to bring him back. At this particular point, the NBA is at a standstill. I mean, really, that's where it boils down to. The World Cup now has the finals, which I'm definitely looking forward to. With NBA going on, I mean, NBA free agency that's going on, the NFL with their OTAs, Major League Baseball is where it is right now. Side note, Tanaka going back to have his possibility being injured. I don't know if it was more utilization or anything, but if hopefully there's nothing bad because he's right now he's put on the DL for his elbow, and he won't be appearing in the All-Star game, which is sad because he was doing so well for the New York Yankees. But this is really a punch in the gut for the New York Yankees because he was the only thing that really was right in the ship for them. Would love to see how they're going to adapt to it down the road, but Tanaka being on the DL is bad for the Yankees, especially when they're right there in the standings in their division. So I'll be interested to see what they're going to do. At this particular point, we're going to talk more about everything else at a later date. Again, I would like to talk. I'll talk more about like the NBA, NFL, everything else in the end. But for now, I would like to thank you guys for checking me out. This has really been a revelation for me. I really enjoyed talking about sports. Really enjoyed talking to everybody about sports. Also have my friends I'd like to thank. Of course, they wasn't here tonight, but they will be joining me next week. Next week, we're going to talk about more signings, more trades. Possibly, we're going to get a little bit more into the NFL talk. We're also going to talk Major League Baseball. We're going to talk. We're not going to talk much about NBA. We got to talk about all sports in general. So we're going to talk more Major League Baseball, definitely more NFL as well. Also, we're going to talk about what happened at the World Cup finals between Argentina and Germany as well. But this has been Al Quarles. Thanks very much for having me. You can catch me on iTunes now. This show is now being podcast on iTunes. You can check out for my links on Google Plus as well. You'll also check me out on Twitter. You can always reach me on Twitter. My Twitter handle is IAMALQUARLES. Thank you very much for everybody for having me. I really appreciate it. Also, we're going to be talking about more things that's happening just as well. Guys, talking sports is still going to continue, but I have some other podcasts that's going to go in the works as well over this summer. So you can catch me on there. I appreciate everybody for checking me out. I will be sending the links out soon, and I'll talk to you guys again next week, same time, same channel. 1.